Have you ever noticed something strange? Two people can work just as hard, put in the same hours, feel equally exhausted at the end of the day, yet live in completely different worlds. One thinks twice before buying a cup of coffee. The other books a weekend flight without checking the price. The difference isn't intelligence. It isn't luck. And most of the time, it isn't even effort. It's something far more powerful, something almost invisible. A number that quietly controls the choices you make, the risks you avoid, the people you spend time with, and even the dreams you allow yourself to have. What's frightening is that most people never realize this is happening. They believe they're making their own decisions, while that number has been making them all along. And here's the part almost nobody talks about. As your income changes, your problems don't disappear. They evolve. The fears change. The conversations change. Even the way people treat you changes. Today, we're going to walk through every major income level, from barely getting by to earning $1 million a year, and uncover how each level quietly reshapes your thinking, your lifestyle, your relationships, and your future. But one level on this list surprises almost everyone, because it's the point where people expect happiness to begin, yet many discover an entirely different challenge waiting for them. So make sure you stay until the end. Before we jump in, take 1 second to help the channel grow. If you enjoy videos that break down money, psychology, and real-life success in a way that's actually useful, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss future videos. And I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your city, state, or country in the comments. I read them regularly, and your feedback helps us create even better content for people all across the United States, Canada, the UK, and around the world. Now, let's begin at the place millions of people know all too well. Level 1, around $20,000 a year. At this level, life isn't planned months ahead. It's planned paycheck to paycheck. If you're earning around $10 an hour, the math follows you everywhere. Inside Walmart. At the gas pump. Standing in line at the pharmacy. Even while lying awake at night. Every purchase starts with the same silent question. If I buy this, what won't I be able to afford later? Rent usually doesn't buy privacy. It buys a bedroom inside someone else's house. Someone else's rules. Someone else's schedule. Someone else's noise bleeding through thin walls while you're trying to sleep before tomorrow's shift. Food isn't chosen because it tastes good. It's chosen because it stretches the farthest. Frozen meals. Instant noodles. Store-brand cereal. Discount coupons become more valuable than brand loyalty. Owning a reliable car feels like a luxury. Maybe your vehicle has over 180,000 miles on it. Maybe the dashboard warning light has been glowing for so long that you barely notice it anymore. You don't fill the gas tank. You buy $20 at a time. Not because you want to. Because filling it completely could mean sacrificing groceries or delaying another bill. Every financial decision becomes a trade. Gas. Internet. Medicine. Or replacing the pair of shoes you've been pretending still has another few months left. One unexpected expense can throw off everything. A flat tire. A doctor's visit. A broken phone. None of these feel like inconveniences. They feel like emergencies. The hardest part isn't always the lack of money. It's the constant mental pressure. Watching your bank balance before every purchase. Refreshing your banking app while standing at the checkout counter. Hoping a transfer clears before your card is declined. And every time that happens, something inside you quietly loses confidence. Not because you're irresponsible. Because survival leaves very little room for breathing. Late at night, you search job listings hoping something finally pays enough to change your life. But every better opportunity seems to ask for experience you don't have. Or qualifications you never had the chance to earn. That's when many people begin believing the biggest lie of all. That this is simply how life will always be. And that's exactly where the real trap begins. The people who escape this level usually don't do it because they suddenly become smarter. They escape because, somewhere along the way, they stop thinking only about the next paycheck. And start thinking about the next opportunity. Level 2, around $35,000 a year. This is the first income level where life begins to feel manageable. Not comfortable. Not wealthy. Just, less overwhelming. For the first time, you unlock something that once felt impossible. Space. Maybe it's your own apartment. Nothing fancy. Just a place where the silence belongs to you. You close the front door after work and realize nobody's television is blasting through the wall. Nobody's telling you when guests can visit. Nobody controls your routine anymore. That freedom feels priceless. For the first time, filling your gas tank completely doesn't feel reckless. Buying fresh groceries instead of only the cheapest options doesn't require 20 minutes of mental math. You replace worn-out clothes before they're falling apart. Not because you've become rich. Because you finally have a little breathing room. But don't mistake breathing room for financial freedom. At this level, one layoff, one medical emergency, one unexpected repair bill can still erase months of progress. The panic hasn't disappeared. It has simply become quieter. Instead of shouting every single day, it whispers in the background. Something else changes too. Your perspective. Now you begin noticing people earning just a little more than you. The coworker driving a newer SUV. The neighbor taking family vacations every summer. The friend who never seems worried when the bill arrives at dinner. You're not jealous. You're curious. What do they know that I don't? That question becomes incredibly important. Because curiosity is often the first step toward growth. For the first time, your future feels like something you might actually influence. Instead of asking, how do I survive this month? You start asking, how do I earn more next year? That shift changes everything. Level 3, around $50,000 a year. Welcome to where millions of Americans believe they've finally made it. Your bills are usually paid. The refrigerator stays full. Dinner with friends no longer requires checking your banking app first. Life works. At least from the outside. You have a decent apartment. Reliable transportation. Health insurance. A steady paycheck every other week. If someone looked at your life from a distance, they'd probably call it success. But something unexpected begins happening here. Routine quietly replaces excitement. You wake up. Drive to work. Answer emails. Come home. Repeat. One evening, maybe while reviewing your retirement account or using an online salary calculator, you project your future. Same career. Same annual raises. Same lifestyle. And suddenly, a strange feeling appears. Not fear. Not gratitude. Disappointment. Because for the first time, survival is no longer the problem. Meaning is. You realize you could keep doing exactly this for the next 30 years. And nothing dramatic would ever happen. That's when comparison becomes impossible to ignore. A colleague in another department earns $80,000. Same company. Similar experience. Different paycheck. Suddenly the gap doesn't look like numbers anymore. It looks like choices. A better neighborhood. More weekends with family. Less financial pressure. Greater freedom to say no when something doesn't align with your life. At $50,000. You aren't struggling anymore. But you're no longer satisfied either. This income level creates one of the most dangerous emotional traps. Comfort. Because comfort makes people stop growing. It convinces them they're safe. When they're actually standing still. And standing still in a rapidly changing economy often means quietly falling behind. That's why this level becomes a turning point. Some people decide to invest in new skills. Others negotiate higher salaries. Some launch businesses. Some change careers entirely. And others stay exactly where they are, wondering years later why nothing ever changed. The biggest difference isn't income. It's the decision they make while standing at this crossroads. Because what happens at the next level has very little to do with working harder. And everything to do with thinking differently. Level 4, around $75,000 a year. This is where money slowly stops dominating your mornings. You wake up. And your first thought isn't your checking account. It's your day. Your goals. Your plans. That's a bigger upgrade than most people realize. Maybe you've moved into a better neighborhood. Your home feels less like a temporary stop. And more like a place you've intentionally chosen. You book flights without waiting months for the perfect deal. You grocery shop without adding numbers in your head. You replace broken things immediately instead of making them last a little longer. These sound like small improvements. But to someone who remembers living paycheck to paycheck, they feel enormous. Ironically, this is also where people begin calling you successful. Yet deep down, you know you're not where you ultimately want to be. Because once you reach this level, you start seeing people earning six figures. And suddenly, your finish line becomes someone else's starting point. Level 5, around $100,000 a year. For years, six figures sounded like the destination. The magical number. The proof that you'd finally made it. Then you arrive. And reality introduces itself. Taxes take a larger bite than expected. Housing costs keep climbing. Lifestyle quietly expands alongside income. Suddenly, that dream number doesn't feel as unlimited as it once did. In cities like New York, Boston, Seattle, Toronto, Vancouver, London, or San Francisco, six figures can still feel surprisingly ordinary. You notice something fascinating. People don't judge your success by what you earn. They judge it by what they think you should be doing with it. Friends ask for advice. Family members expect more. Everyone suddenly has opinions about your money. Meanwhile, you're discovering that earning more doesn't automatically answer life's biggest questions. It simply gives you more choices. And choices without direction can become another form of confusion. Level 6, around $150,000 a year. Here, freedom begins replacing survival. You can finally imagine taking a career risk. Walking away from a toxic workplace. Starting something of your own. Taking time off without immediate panic. Money becomes less about paying bills. And more about protecting your time. But another invisible change begins. Your social circle slowly shifts. Not because you're trying to leave people behind. Because your daily conversations naturally become different. Investment strategies. Career opportunities. Long-term planning. Business ideas. You begin realizing something uncomfortable. Financial distance often creates emotional distance too. Not intentionally. Just gradually. Level 7, around $250,000 a year. At this point, money no longer dominates conversations. Strategy does. You think about ownership instead of overtime. Assets instead of paychecks. Leverage instead of hourly rates. The people around you often think similarly. Nobody planned it that way. Opportunity simply has a way of bringing similar people together. The circle becomes smaller. Quieter. More selective. And strangely, success can begin feeling lonelier than struggle ever did. Level 8, around $500,000 a year. Time becomes your most valuable currency. You stop asking, can I afford this? You start asking, is this worth my time? You delegate more. You automate more. You invest more. Money solves many logistical problems. But it introduces entirely new responsibilities. Protecting wealth. Managing taxes. Planning for future generations. The financial game changes completely. Yet one question quietly follows you. Who would I be if all of this disappeared tomorrow? Level 9. Around $1 million a year. At this level, the biggest transformation isn't financial. It's psychological. Money becomes a tool. Influence becomes the real asset. You gain access to conversations, rooms, and opportunities that most people never even see. But every now and then, a memory unexpectedly returns. Standing at a gas station deciding whether $20 is enough. Checking your account before buying groceries. Watching a declined card at the checkout counter. Those memories never completely disappear. They simply become reminders of the person you once were. And that's the lesson almost everyone misses. Every income level promises that happiness lives just beyond the next number. 20,000 believes it's 35. 35 believes it's 50. 50 dreams about 75. 75 chases 100. And the cycle keeps repeating. Because money changes your lifestyle. It changes your opportunities. It changes your confidence. But by itself, it never finishes the journey. The people who build extraordinary lives eventually discover something that numbers alone can never teach. Income determines your standard of living. But purpose determines the quality of your life. So wherever you are today, don't let your current paycheck become your identity. Let it become your starting point. Because the number in your bank account may shape your circumstances. But the decisions you make from this moment forward will shape the person you ultimately become. And that will always be worth more than any paycheck.